Hello and welcome to another episode of the Muddy Waters podcast, where we call out the scams and demystify misinformation. And today we're going to be talking about the most prevalent of all scams, and that is the romance scam. And listen, I could sum this whole conversation up in one sentence. If it seems too good to be true, it most often is. So we're going to talk about how these scams occur, signs that you can see that will help you potentially spot them, and what to do to protect yourself. And then if you've fallen victim, you know, what recourse potentially do you have? So full disclosure, I met my wife online. I met her on Match.com. I had been senior VP for a music publishing company and never really spent time in my hometown, mostly traveling internationally. Very difficult to meet people. So online made a whole lot of sense. I ran across her profile, and honestly, I didn't reach out to her because I thought she was way out of my league. And to my surprise, I got a message from her. We stayed in touch on the platform for almost a month before we agreed to meet and met in person. 11 months later, we were married. We're on 7 years of marriage now, and she's just a blessing to my life. So the purpose of this podcast is not to scare you away from a potentially wonderful relationship you can be built that can be built for you if that's what you're seeking, because it can happen. It happened to me. But unfortunately, as often as there are, wonderful people out there in the world that really want to meet and connect, there is that element of scam artists out there looking to take advantage, and to, give you the promise and the hope of a long-lasting relationship, only to find out that it was all smoke and mirrors. According to the Federal Trade Commission, romance scams are the most prevalent of all types of scams. They report in 2022 alone 70,000 reports nationwide. The median loss for victims, $4,400. And notably, that's up from $2,400 in 2021. So listen, anyone can fall victim. Anyone who is looking to, get into a new relationship can fall victim. But most often, it's those people in a situation where they're recent widows or widowers, went through a recent divorce, senior citizens certainly are targets. All of them are kind of opened up to this possibility. So what does it look like? It begins with an unexpected message. This can occur not just in dating sites, but also on social media, right? Somebody reaches out and says, "Hey, how's your day?" Or, whatever it may be. "Do you want to play golf this weekend?" It's seemingly innocuous at first. And sometimes that occurs with a stranger that you strike up a relationship with. So that's not necessarily a red flag. When they're handsome men, when they're beautiful women, when they start to pass early compliments on to you, it's easy to engage with that, right? Because it's fulfilling to hear good things about yourself. So, these are a couple of the initial hooks. What they're trying to do is get engagement. Before you engage, do a little research on them, right? How new is their profile? How many connections do they have? As importantly, who are those connections? I get, and I'm a happily married man of 7 years, as I mentioned, I get, 4 to 6 messages on Facebook a month. These are all from people who send me a, friend invite. And if I accept that invite, invariably within a half hour, I'm going to get a message back, "Hey, how are you doing?" So I stopped, obviously, stopped engaging. But when you start to look at their connections, if you notice a trend in their connections, first of all, if they don't have a lot of them, that's a potential red flag. If they do, sometimes it's going to be your friend base. In my case, when I was single, this happened a lot. It was friends of mine who were single as well. And it seemed like because they were friends of mine, there was a little bit of credibility established why this person was reaching out. So do a little research on them. How perfect is their profile? Are they happy and traveling the world, and do they have luxury items, and all those types of things? You can even do reverse image searches and find out if it's a public domain image that someone's pasted up in a profile. Before you engage, you should do all those things. But if you do engage, start to ask yourself, does this all pass the smell test? Because what's going to happen is, just like in normal life, just like when you meet somebody new, they're going to look to establish rapport and get to know you as a person. Very specifically, what scammers are looking for is possible vulnerabilities. So they may want to find out about your family, about your personal life. How are you doing? What do you struggle with? What makes you happy? All these things are tools in the toolkit of a scammer. So be aware. If things begin to escalate quickly, that is a major red flag. So, you may have a couple back and forths on, let's say it's Facebook or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden they're like, I think you could be a perfect match for me, and I hope we get to know each other better because I'm looking for a husband, I'm looking for a wife, whatever the case may be. And usually that's going to come after they've identified something about you that they can use to their advantage later on in the conversation. So be aware if things seem to be escalating fairly quickly. That can be, a major red flag. I want to talk a minute about instincts and why you should trust your instincts. So there's a lot of studies out there, and there's an excellent book by Gavin DeBoer called The Gift of Fear. Essentially, what we need to know is that when we get this gut instinct about something that says, I don't know, this is tickling my spidey sense. Our gut instincts come from the aggregate of our entire life experience. And while you may not be able to call out specifically why you're feeling the way you are, it's very likely based on something in the past that you've seen, heard, or experienced that's triggering an alarm to you. And this is a survival instinct that's inherent and built into all of us. So when you feel that, if you do, that spidey sense tingling, be sure to honor it because there's likely something behind it. All right, so conversations are happening. You share a little bit of personal information. Things seem to be escalating a little bit. Absolutely ask to meet. Ask to meet in person if logistically possible. If not, ask for a video call. Couple disclaimers about this. First of all, if they make an excuse, oh, I'm in the military, I'm traveling, I'm on an oil rig, whatever it may be, that should be a red flag the first time it happens. And the second time it happens, when you offer up a meeting, video meeting, whatever it is, and they can't do it for whatever reason, yeah, it's time to disengage. Very, very high likelihood that they are a scammer. That all being said, there are actually agencies out there for higher value targets, people who have accumulated some good wealth in their life. These agencies will hire models and they'll have studios and they'll do these video calls with you. Their profiles are real, it's really them, but they're hired talent as a part of this. There's a lot of Southern Asian gangs that are starting to get into this, as well as pig butchering and some of the cryptocurrency scams that we're hearing about. So shield yourself early and often. Don't let the fear of a lost opportunity cloud your better judgment. Here's some things to look out for. Again, moving too fast, avoiding a face-to-face or video meeting. Here's another one. They ask you to switch to a different platform. Usually it's going to be, WhatsApp or Telegram. Those encrypted messaging platforms make it much harder for them to track, puts you at a disadvantage, but makes it much harder to track them. So be careful for that. Also, they may say, yeah, I want to see some photos. Take your shirt off, take your pants off, whatever that might look like. If you're asked for explicit photos, there's such a thing called sextortion, where once they receive these intimate photos, then they're going to blackmail you so as not to release them. So don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. And then finally, and obviously, comes the financial ask. I want to come and see you so badly, but I don't have enough money to make the trip. Can you please send me XYZ money? And I can't wait to meet you, and I love you, and I miss you, and we'll be married, and blah, 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 right? My mom is unexpectedly ill, and the hospital just sent me a bill, and I'm so afraid. I don't know what to do. I don't have the money, but I love my mom, and blah, blah, blah. Please help me. So be aware of that as well. My bank called me and there was an overdraft and I'm not sure what to do and I need your help temporarily. I can get to my money and pay you back right away, is another possibility. So when it comes to the financial ask, that should be a big red flag for you, right? So what do you do? Maybe you've already fallen victim to some of this, maybe more of it. What do you do? Number one, first and foremost, cut off all contact. Number two, file a police report. Number three, if a bank has been involved or a company has been involved in the financial transaction, it may not work, but reach out to them. Tell them you've been scammed and ask them if there is any way they can work with you, any way they can refund because of the scam. Have the police report at hand when you do. Notify the FTC, and depending on the scale and scope of what's happened to you, maybe even the FBI, knowing that there's probably not a lot of recourse, for you in your particular case, but maybe you're helping another person, and that's worthwhile as well. Um, and finally, if you have given any personal information that can be used against you, and I'm referring here to identity theft, monitor your credit reports. Sign up for Experian or some of the other fraud monitoring sites to make sure, hey, no credit cards are open, no new bank accounts, no loans are applied for that you didn't personally do, and report them right away should they occur. I wish I wasn't having this conversation with all of you. I wish these things didn't exist, but the fact is they do. And knowing what to look for, knowing to trust your instincts, knowing how to test and really validate legitimacy of a person can help you stay clear of these kinds of things. Listen, if you enjoyed this episode, if you learned a few things, or if you have a friend or family member that might benefit from listening, I hope you'll share, I hope you'll like, I hope you'll subscribe, and I hope you'll tune in to the next episode. Have an excellent day.